the purpose of this town hall is transparency is key, right? This is one of the first, probably big things that we've worked on in this administration. We've been working on this for a year and a half or better. So we wanted to make sure that we got this information out to the public before we moved forward. So in regards to electric utility, we're just going to share some information. We'll have some Q&A at the end. Obviously, we don't have a super large crowd, so we should be good on time. Presentation will be about 20-25 minutes, and then we'll have 30 to 35 minutes for questions. I do have, so obviously everybody knows who I am. My name is Dave Clark. We've got council members here, Councilman Jim Fincham, Councilman Kevin Webb, Councilwoman and Council President Natalie DeWitt, Councilman Dave Bundy, and Councilman Dan Braun over here. And then one of our councilmen couldn't be here due to work. We've also got, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Emily Prosser in the back. She sat in the back, I didn't see her. General Manager for Auburn Electric, Justin Fry. We have our IT Director, Ramil Hozanovic, and Auburn Essential Services Manager, Susan Geyer, Chief of Police, Corey Heffelfinger. And I want to thank Mr. Harrison and the DeKalb Central staff for allowing us to use the cafeteria for this. We weren't sure how many we'd have in attendance, so council chambers is very limited, and so we wanted to get a larger space. So we'll get started. I'm going to turn it over to the General Manager of Auburn Electric, Justin Fry. He's going to just talk about the history of the department, and then we'll get into some other details.
Okay. Auburn Electric was formerly authorized to be an Indiana municipal electric in 1901. In 1909, Auburn built its own first generation facility. And then 1938, due to demand, Auburn Electric had got into negotiations with I&M for transmission supply. Kind of just give you an idea what Auburn Electric does. We supply service to 8,000 meters. We deliver over 300,000 megawatt hours of electricity. About 70. Our summer peak is usually about 47 meg. We have 20 members on the crew. We have 8 linemen. One's electrical engineer, the general manager, myself, and then right-of-way crew. Our customers are supported with a fiber optic smart metering program, which allows us to efficiently notify customers and respond to outages more effectively. At this time, Auburn Electric, we maintain over 377 miles of line. We have 5 substations. We are supplied with 138 kV. We transform that to a 69 kV circuit. And then our customers are supplied 12 kV feeders. We've got 22 circuits in our system, all loop fed, none radial. That allows us to isolate outages and backfeed customers to minimize outage times. Yeah, that's
thank you. I'm confident I had the same look on my face that you just did when he's talking about all those numbers. So there is a lot to this. But I'd like to start off by talking about the last 18 months. We have received a lot of questions and phone calls in regards to swings and bills. Roughly last half of 2024, probably 3/4 of 2025. What we had is there were some decisions made during the past administration that caused a $7 million over collection from April of 23 through April of 24. The reason that it went 4 months into this administration is when we do a tracker, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, that was only done twice a year. It wasn't done until March and then later in the year, around October, November. So it took a few months before we seen it. As soon as we found that over collection, we did what we had to do because the electric utility is a nonprofit. We passed $7 million back to ratepayers between, yeah, October 24, because that's when the next tracker was completed, through September of 2025. And then in October 2025, our bills went fairly, almost back to normal, came down 22, about 6%. When I was talking about the tracker, what that does is our base rate on our electric rates has not been adjusted since 2016. What the state IURC had done, they had created a tracker mechanism that instead of going back, once a year to reset your base rate, you could adjust it a couple times a year based on your operational costs. They factor in capital, so infrastructure that needs replaced or expansion of the system. By doing it twice a year, it was done in a 7-month and a 5-month interval. That created these huge swings because of the lapse between the two. What we've done this year, we started it actually back in October of 25, is we have taken that tracker and we're looking at it every quarter. So we're only going back 3 months versus 5 months and 7 months to reduce that swing. The goal was to provide stability in that tracker mechanism. And after 3 of them, we can see it's working. It's been a ½ cent swing versus 2 cents, 3 cents. There was one that was as high as 4. And then, Justin let me know just now that there was one that was even higher, upwards of 6 cents. So that was the first step in stabilizing rates and to eliminate those big swings. It was 33% higher, it was over 4.5. So now we're hovering around that 3 cent mark, which is good. But that's the history behind that mark, which is good. But that's the history behind that and why we all received lower utility bills for about 14 to 15 months. Oops, I think I hit the button too fast. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Council President Natalie DeWitt. One of the things that we're here to talk about tonight is the option of opting out of the IURC, and we're going to explain why, explain what it entails, explain how much that costs. We are, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but she's going to explain the IURC process and explain the process if we were to do that same process locally and how much money the utility will save. So I'll turn it over to you.
The IURC process, very similar to us getting out of the IURC process with water utility about 1.5 years ago. So through the IURC process, you have to hire consultants that are already have within. This process can take upwards to 12 months to process all the way through the IURC. The consultants and outside legal counsel determine financial rate analysis, recommend rate adjustments, draft supporting documentation, assist city officials with preparing filings, and provide expert testimony if required. It's to our cost to also then pay for the rate process through the IURC. So we're on top of all of that, we're paying for IURC legal counsel reviews, audits, filings, and additional hearings. That cost is about $300,000 to $500,000. So total cost is about $380,000 to $600,000 to go all the way through the IURC process. That could take upwards of 12 months to process and then go through council to get rates changed and then implement, and then you start all over again. So it's quite a big process. If we went outside the IURC, the initial process of us hiring the outside counsel and consultants, the cost of is about $800,000 to $100,000. So that same process that we took prior to IURC, those processes then would go through council. That cost is about $3,600. So total cost is about $800,000 to $100,000, $83,000 to approve at the local level without IURC. The time frame for that also is 1 month versus 12 months. So total cost savings is $300,000 to $500,000.
Thank you. One thing I'll point out at the bottom of the slide with the IRC process is any costs that the electric utility consumes ultimately is passed back to every one of us that are ratepayers. So want to make sure I pointed that out. We do have some poster boards up here that we had made, so of some significant information. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, take it with you, read it some more, you're more than welcome. One of the things, the Utility Regulatory Commission, they oversee utilities that are part of them. Mainly, they oversee investor-owned, and investor-owned utilities are there to make money. They have private investors, they factor in profit margins and so forth. So that's their main primary responsibility. Now, there are some municipal utilities that are in the IURC, and what we put in this slide is we are one of 3 municipal electrics out of 80 that are left in the IURC. The only other 2 behind Auburn is Anderson and Frankfurt. You've got your Duke, your I&M, your AES, and not our AES, and NIPSCO. You also have Citizens Energy, right? And that's a unique one. That's kind of a private-public partnership, but they're there to make money. So they're not technically classified as a municipal electric. In addition to that, any of your like Noble REMCs, Steuben, is there Steuben REMC? Yeah. All of your co-ops, all 43 co-ops throughout the state of Indiana have left because of the significant costs that we incur every time we go through that process, right? No matter which process you go through, whether it's local or through the state, you still have that outside legal counsel. So City of Auburn has a utility attorney, it's Denton's. We also have a consultant, which is Crone and Associates, and you'll see that name on some of the slides because they help put the information together for us. But that back-end process, like Council President DeWitt mentioned, is exactly the same. The only difference is who's approving it. I can tell you in my little over 2 years that I've been here, our trackers have to go to the state, down to IURC to be approved. I've not had any rate that we've sent down there be changed. So, and one of my philosophies has been in this job, if we have a process that routinely that we're going through to approve something, and we're having people go through these extra steps, maybe it costs them extra money, let's eliminate that process. We still have the oversight because, again, we have to follow our utility attorney and our city attorney, and I apologize, we got city attorney Zach Leitner back there. Clerk Treasurer Lori Pontius and Andy Barron with the city as well for economic development. We got started and everybody's scattered all over. I need to make them sit together. But that process is the same, and we still have to follow all those statutory requirements. Your rates have to be reasonable. In our utility council, our city attorney, our consultants, they're the ones that are responsible for making sure that happens. They're not going to jeopardize their business. Our legal counsel for utilities, they've been around, I believe, I want to say 100 years. Crone and Associates, which is our consultant, they've been in the business for 40. They've been doing this a long time. They're the ones that have kind of guided us through this process. But just want to show how many, you got 77 and 43 that have opted out. We're one of 3 left. So it's not unique. What this slide shows is, so you've got, like I was talking about Frankfurt, and then you got Anderson. So this is showing our current rates. We're one of the lowest two in the state of Indiana, $1 behind Frankfurt. Okay, you got Anderson, that's about $10 more. You start getting into your investors, you can see the significant difference, right? I was really shocked when I seen our neighbors to the north here in Waterloo paying twice as much as we are. So we're very fortunate, in my opinion. But what this slide shows is where we're at currently and where we're proposed to be with what we're going to present tonight. Again, the main thing is we're nonprofit, so when we do rate increases, it's just enough to sustain the utility. If we don't, if the utility were to lose money year after year, the city's got to make a tough decision. Do we sell it and pay the rates everybody else are paying, or do we try to keep our rates reasonable? You know, nobody likes, just like taxes, you know, nobody likes raising rates, nobody likes raising taxes, but when we do this and go through this process, we're doing the bare minimum to sustain the utility that's been here for 100 years. So, but that just puts it in perspective of where we're at, where we're looking at going, and I'm going to go more in depth on this here on the next slide. But I will say, you know, I've been here 25 years. I know you guys, I know you've been here quite a long time. Maybe all your lives, or no? Okay. I knew, and because I see some familiar faces, but I know I've been here 25 years, and I can count on one hand how many times I've been out of power for more than an hour. That's amazing. And we've got some more data to share on outages here as we get further into this. This is one we shared in the state of the city. It shows where our rate is with our base rate, our service charge, which is your meter fee, and then what the PCA charges, that tracker that we adjust from time to time. But you can see we're half of what NIPSCO is, and we're about 33 to 35% cheaper than I&M. And we buy our power from I&M, just to put that in perspective. So, again, we're nonprofit, just like our water and water pollution. We only raise our rates enough to cover our utility, or excuse me, our operational costs. Any material includes wages, expansion of the system, replacement of pieces or parts of the system. And anytime, like I said, we raise rates, it's just to sustain the utility. That's all it is. You know, their number one goal is to provide that reliable, affordable power to our customers. If you've been downtown lately or noticed, over the last 2 years, there used to be overheads running across Cedar Street, over on 9th Street, through the alleys. This crew came in. We got a pretty young crew, but they're good. They got all that underground in the last 2 years. Those businesses, when you get it underground, it limits outages for sure. Am I right? Yeah. He's taught me a lot in 2 years, because this is probably the most unique utility that we have. But it shows, like, currently this is where we're at. So an average homeowner uses about 750 kilowatts during the winter. Unless we get those negative 50-degree wind chills, you're going to use more. But that's the standard, and that's just a comparison between a standard residential, which what I mean by that is somebody that has gas heat, versus all electric home. And then I don't know if we have anybody in here that has an all electric home. Okay, so all electric home is, you know, a few dollars more, but you get in the winter, you're going to consume more energy or have a larger consumption than somebody with a gas forced furnace. And one thing I do want to make sure I share is, if you do have an all electric home, you can do a budget plan with the city. That's one thing we do offer, to just kind of give you that average throughout, spread that over 12 months versus during the season. But that was just to kind of put it in perspective. So here, like I said, our last rate adjustment was 2016. Did I? Oh, no, it's up top. And so we show our current rate, which is about 10.11. I'm not going to read the rest of it. But we're looking at going to about 10.4 cents. the way we came up with that number is it's not even as high as where we're at now on some things. We did have to increase a little bit, but that takes our base rate and our tracker of 2.5 cents, which is what we had in October. That was the number we worked with. And we came up to the 10.4 cents. What that means for an average residential customer at 750 kilowatts is about a $7 increase. That is it. I consider that very minimal. And that also includes, factored in that, it includes that meter fee as well. So it's not just the usage, it's all fees. The only thing that is not included in that, I don't believe, is the sales tax, which is like 7%. But you have sales tax on your bill now. For an all-electric home, it's about the same increase at $7.50. Again, that one depends on usage if it's all electric. But I got these numbers late on Monday, and I was actually very pleased. We thought it was going to be a little bit more than that. One thing we did to kind of keep this down is, instead of raising the new proposed rate higher, we were able to come up, our meter fees were $6.90, I believe. Is that right? Yeah. And that was one thing, if you look across the board, even at the municipals, it was low. We were able to take a little bit of that increase and turn it into a flat fee, so that when your usage goes up, you're not paying anymore, which made sense in the long run, especially for people with electric heat or all electric as well, because the more consumption you have, the higher your bill is going to be. Well, we were able to wrap some of that into that meter fee that needed to be increased slightly, but that also is included in that $7.50, so that it kind of locks that in and you don't have such a big swing. What? Again, like I said, there's still safeguards when we come, or whether we're through the IURC or we do it through council. Biggest thing is, I want to make sure I reference the Indiana code. We have statutory requirements. If we do not follow those, city attorney, you can advise, I don't want to find out what happens, but I'm sure it's not good. And then obviously we have annual audits by State Board of Accounts as well. So the safeguards are still there. It's just eliminating that additional $300,000 to $500,000. You know, if we got to go through additional hearings, that's more on top of that. I'm not sure what the most expensive rate case study has been, but ours are historically right around that $500,000 mark. With that $7.50 increase, well, right now we're about 36% lower than I&M, which we buy power from and resell it, 50% lower than NIPSCO. With that $7.50 increase that we're looking at for the average homeowner, we're still 31% lower and 45% lower. And I thought that was a good point to put in there. You know, we'll still be one of the lowest 2 municipal electric companies in the state of Indiana, just slightly over Frankfurt by a couple bucks on an average. And that could vary. One thing that we've started doing with utilities, because again, to prevent those very large swings, is evaluating our rates every 3 to 4 years, which is what I was taught to do. So that you're staying on top of the market. You know, things change. You know, we had 2020 and 21 prices for everything skyrocketed. If you bought a home, or we're going to build a home, in 21 they were double the price they were in 2018. And we've been very fortunate that we made it through all that and really didn't have to go back and adjust our rates. But you know, it's finally caught up with us. But the biggest thing is we want to make it very minimal, the less of an impact. Every department across the city, you know, and city council helping with this, every department, you know, we've cut out a lot of unnecessary expenses, which is helpful. That keeps those rates down. AE's ultimate goal is to continue to provide reliable, affordable power. And I'll just go ahead and finish if you want. like I said, I've been here 25 years and I know I can count on one hand how many times my power's been out for more than an hour. I'm sure most of us can. Would that be fair to say? But their average outage time, which includes their 30 minutes response time, which is required for a minor outage, is 47 minutes. So if they get on scene in 30 minutes, they got about within 17 minutes, they have it back up. And any sort of major outage is an average of 90. You know, once in a while you'll get one that may be a few hours. I know I was out with them one night and they had a tree come down on a big 3-phase on Union. That takes some time to fix. But the majority of the customers were back up within hour and a half probably. And it only affected a few that were right there on that block.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I might be wrong, but when we started going with, I think, I&M,
Mhm.
didn't we have a deal where they couldn't raise our rates more than a certain amount over a period of time? Is that why we're quite a bit lower than what they were?
I'm going to probably let Justin speak on. I would say you're on the right track. He can speak more in depth
We can deal with that later, but I saw that and I wondered if that.
because we're right at the end, so we can actually lead right into this one.
So we're actually we buy wholesale and we sell retail. The wholesale, we are in a contract and it is, yep.
Sure.
Yeah, my apologies.
You're on microphone?
Thank you.
All right.
So we're in a wholesale contract with I&M and we're locked in to buy it at a certain rate, but there are increases and it's on the transmission side. So that's what that tracker is. So those are those increases you see based off of fuel cost and generation cost. And then like you had said with the tracker, we're doing a quarterly tracker now for help industrial customers where they sell piece rate and they need to know how much it costs to make that individual piece where they don't have these 6-cent swings. Along with that, their costs do increase, but what we've been able to do, like he said, was we eliminate costs and we keep it, we run lean. We're lean and mean right now. So, and that's our ultimate goal, even with this process, is we are able to go to the local route. We're able to eliminate that additional cost that we'd have to pass on to the ratepayer. So to answer your question on the wholesale side, we are in a contract with them. The rates are only allowed to increase a certain amount, and it's based off of cost of service that they have to go through FERC.
So that hasn't really changed over the years? Nothing.
So what has changed is with that contract, there's two sides to it. The wholesale market is changing due to the data centers they're going in. And right now with this contract, we're going to see us begin to benefit with that contract because the market at one point, there was more electricity available, so they were able to sell it cheaper while we were locked in this contract, so we had to buy it at this higher cost. Well, now that market is going the other way, and we were able to buy it at a cheaper rate. So as the open market inflates in cost, we're kind of locked in just what that cost of service is, right? So we're shielded from that currently. And then, correct, the retail side, so when we resell to you guys, we are able to, it's that local business. We're able to do a lot more because our guys wear multiple hats. They're maintaining substations, they're maintaining transmission, they're maintaining distribution, local services. And then, even down to the simple things of just fixing things around the shop. We don't have to hire that out. We don't have contractors. We build our line. We don't contract that out. Our guys they're hard workers and they're here to serve the community. So that's the goal. Yeah.
And
When is that contract up for renewal?
so the contract right now is an expiration date of 2038. If we choose to renegotiate anything, it would be right around 2032, 2033.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. He was talking about going to that quarterly tracker again. For residents, if you're on a budget, that's going to help having that stable rate for budgeting purposes. And he talked about our industries here in town. They're pricing work for next year, 2-3 years down the road. and they're having these large volatile swings, it's hard for them. But going to that tracker every 3 months and keeping that stable, like we predict our goal, and this is what our consultants have shared with us. So when we reset this rate, we are, if we do have a tracker factor, it should be very, very low. And, half a cent, where, now we're seeing 2.5, 3.5. It should be very low, if any. And that's the information they shared with us on Monday.
Right. The rate base will compensate for the large tracker, and
Mhm.
they'll have it baked into it, so it'll help reduce those fluctuations for the customers.
Mm-hmm. And it's weird because to do the tracker twice a year, because they're going back 7 and 5 months, it was about $16,000. We pay $2,000 a quarter now because they only have to go back about half the time. So we saved 50% there, which was, I find that ironic, but that's been great. So other questions? Yes.
I have a number of questions.
Sure.
Do you want to hear them all, or do you want to hear them one at a time?
Well, all I ask is if it pertains to electric, yes. If you've got other questions, we do have some staff with some business cards. Okay. Okay. Okay.
You want to hear them all at once?
How about one at a time so I don't forget?
When you said you had this overall swing in 23, 24, did everybody get that? Because I don't recall that. On my bill, I tracked my bill, I put it in a spreadsheet, I know what this number is.
Yeah. That's the residential tracker went up to over 4.5 cents on top of the base rate. Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's seen it because the tracker, you had a couple different ones. You had one for industry and you had one for residential at the time.
I should have seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll go back and look. You go out of the IURC process and you're saving all this money. Will that come back to us as a customer?
That keeps our rates lower. So
And that'll just stabilize them.
yeah, it'll help with rates because any cost that the utility assumes, whether it's through that process, material, all costs ultimately are paid, factored into our rates. And if we're saving $500,000, that's $500,000 that we're not factoring into that next rate. Huh?
Maybe it won't go up.
Correct. Yeah, and that's anytime we save money, that's less we have to pass on.
And then you had listed about the base rate.
Mm-hmm.
I am not your average home. I live in a very small home. I've been there for 20 years. I'm actually paying more for mine under your guys' base rate because I think I'm subsidizing bigger homes. I live in a 600 square foot home. I don't use that anywhere near the 750 average.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using half that. Same way with my water and everything else. And that base rate, that's when it increases the utility. And I've done everything I can to keep mine down. Went in, put, efficient lights, bulbs in, all that. It came down, but and you're saying that's gonna go up again. So again, I as a small home, the subsidizing something as a large home. Does that make sense to you?
It's your bills are figured on consumption, on usage. So
Not when you got a base rate.
well, the base rate's the same no matter what.
I know.
I would love to give you a business card and have you stop in, and we can pull your bills, and I can have Justin come over as well. We'd love to sit down with you because the base rate is the same for residential. Do you have an all electric home or do you have gas? Okay. Yep. So you're going to be on that lower tier, the slightly lower tier. But
What you're saying, I'm sorry, is this applies to that. You get a 600 square foot home.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have almost 3,500 square foot home. The base rate is the same, so should be paying significantly less than us.
well, it depends on is the furnace energy efficient?
No.
How are the windows, right?
Yeah. It's also about how much you're using.
Yeah. And then
So if the base
consumption.
rate's the same, you're paying for the same amount per kilowatt hour. You're just going to be using more than she will be. That-
Yeah, hers would be higher.
Right.
So I would be
You understand what I'm
in
Yeah, you're
my
not
bill
subsidizing.
should be assuming that our usage is about the same because we have our usage per same per room, my bill should be significantly higher because my house is significantly greater.
Correct.
Okay.
It's on how much you're using lighting, heating, because you're heating a bigger space.
No, I understand. I was
Yeah.
just trying to help.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Like I said, I've seen that as I crack them over the years.
Right.
It's in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's just consumption.
Because I have cracked it over the years.
Mhm.
People like, oh, why my bill goes so high? I know why it went high. But I've done everything in energy efficient. But when you started with this base thing,
That's been in,
and it's been a while.
that's been in place ever since.
Right.
I don't even know how-
Yeah, since the beginning. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't use a lot of water.
Yeah.
I'm very frugal, but I still feel like I'm subsidized. Just
Yeah, no, I can assure you 100% you're not. And the way water works, so if you don't use 8,000 gallons of water, your use, yeah, your usage will just kind of bank until you hit that 1,000 gallons, and that's when they'll bill you. So that's a plus, because when I first came in, I said, well, we're not billing anybody for under 1,000. They said, no, it gets stacked. Once you hit 1,000, then you'll see it on your bill.
But then I always, on all those, electric, water, all, I got that base rate. And that, I don't know what year that came in.
It's been there for as long as the utility, is that
Yeah,
correct?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not anything new. And the tracker's not anything new.
No.
I mean, how long has that been around?
That's been the entire time. That is like pass through on the wholesale costs. That's when we see that transmission and the fuel costs go up based off of energy markets. So
But so like I said, the numbers, I'm seeing that on the
Mhm.
Just as an FYI, I'm very frugal. Always have been, I raised 6 kids, I learned how to do it. But NIPSCO will offer me the means to come in and do an energy audit.
mhm.
Does Auburn do that?
We don't.
We don't.
Not as a municipality. There's no municipality that does that.
Well, and yeah, and honestly, if you want to ask that, like if you look at their base rate and then look at ours, that's why they're paying 20 cents. Yeah, it's a cost. You're paying 20 cents a kilowatt. If you're a NIPSCO customer, you're paying currently 10 cents from us. So they over budget. I'm gonna be honest. They overspend.
She's all like, "Oh, show me your bill." I'm like, "Oh, God, what do you need?" So I said, you need to have an energy in your home. Well, and so I got two refrigerators. I said, why? So she did something and lowered it. If Auburn would do that, yeah, it may cost, would it not decrease our need for electricity? You get some houses that are really wasting energy and they don't know it. They don't know, hey, if you switch your outside lights to LED, you're gonna save money. Somebody like me saying, hey, can help you switch.
I know there are like rebate programs and stuff through the state that'll allow that through various programs, and it's something we can look into. But again, it would be a cost that we could go and do these audits, but if you don't make those choices and make those changes, then ultimately we're going to be eating that cost for that.
Well, actually, that cost gets passed on to
the
ratepayers.
And then your rates are going to go up on that. So. Right. There's
It would be a
outside.
good opportunity though for us to put out some educational pieces on how to be more
Correct.
efficient within the home. That's something we could do.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
We could
maybe
look into
we
do
don't
something like that.
offer and say, we will come in, but you have to pay us $100, $200 for this service. And
Yeah.
that way you wouldn't increase the base rate, but you would still give the service to those who want it.
Take it more
Could be a
serious.
fee.
Yeah.
Because it would be savings in the long run, it may decrease. But then it may savings to Auburn because we are using it for them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Just a thought.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have another question, or was that all four? Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
Currently, we are restricted within territory, but our AES partner, they're actually currently expanding outside territory. And general manager for fiber is actually right there. So she's got some questions.
How far out of downtown are you working? We're just a couple of blocks away
For
from.
electric.
You're talking about putting electric underground, right? Are you,
Oh, I thought you
okay.
said fiber optics. I'm sorry. Okay. It's based on population density. So obviously downtown, the infrastructure there is over 60 years old. So we wanted to, when we upgrade is when we're trying to convert underground. Again, if it's a heavily dense area and there's a lot of traffic, that's when we'll start pushing it underground. Underground is far more expensive, so that's usually why we go overhead. Again, keep rates down. But if it makes sense, and we know like there's a lot of traffic or accidents possible, like someone hitting a pole, that's where we'll go. And so that's kind of a hard question to answer. Just depends on where you're at, especially downtown.
And when we go through the budget process, those are the things that he comes to council and talks about. Okay, we've got these dense areas, I really want to build out. And so he is able to put that kind of within his budget for projects.
Yeah, our capital projects, yeah.
Any others? Yes.
Is there any advantage to stay with the IURC? Really? I mean, you're gonna save a.
Truthfully,
ton of money
no.
By leaving, and there's been several communities that did leave, obviously, but so what are they doing for us? I mean, so there's no big advantage to
It-
stay with them.
Honestly, it was meant for the investor owns. It was to keep privately owned utilities in check. Obviously, and you've seen how well they've done that.
Right.
And so at this point for us on the local side, government side, it's not, it's there to protect customers, but the municipals, we're not there to make profit. We're there just to
Yeah,
maintain the
except we're
system.
nonprofit.
Mhm.
Right. And that's the same thing with the co-ops, they're nonprofit.
They're overseeing or
Right.
making sure that we're not being taken advantage of or whatever.
Mhm.
Yep.
We have the safeguards of Indiana State Code as well.
Right.
So if we're not following rules, we get dinged.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
That's the
held-
scary part, right?
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out.
Well, this was a hard group, but I truly appreciate you coming out. I know the council does as well, Justin and the rest of the city staff. So thank you. We got just a minute. What we're looking at process-wise is we're looking at this going in front of the city council on the 21st of April. This is a long process. It's about, I think it's about 4 months.
Mhm.
April 21st is coming to council for first reading. What we want to do as well is run the rates alongside of it. The rates will be implemented upon a successful opt-out. The opt-out, again, first reading is the 21st, same with the rates. Second meeting, after the first meeting, every ratepayer will get a letter. We're required by statute to send a letter explaining all that. There's a lot of great information we've already got to put together. You should get that within a week to 10 days of the 21st of April. You have to have that letter 30 days prior to the public hearing, which the public hearing will be set for June 2nd, 6 o'clock in council chambers as part of that council meeting and the second reading of that and the rates. So both of those will have public hearings that night. So if you have additional questions that you think of, please come to the council that day. After that, there's a 60-day period that people can petition to oppose the opt-out. In my opinion, I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but there's a 60-day window. If we get a petition, we can do one of two things. We can repeal everything and wait, or if the petition is received and we feel that this is something we really need to do, we feel like the community understands, we can put it on the general ballot in November as a referendum. Not sure who in their right mind would want to oppose saving money, but I can't speak for everybody. But that's how the process works. First part of April, we'd be able to begin the filing process to opt out. Takes 30 to 45 days roughly. We would look at the new rates to be implemented on October bills, and we anticipate that remaining basically what we showed in the slide at the 10.04, which right now we're at 10.01. The new tracker will be at 10.45, I think, that comes in May. But we'll keep evaluating those rates every 3 months to make sure that we're good. If we do have to have an increase in the future, that it's very minuscule, right? So minuscule that nobody even notices. But we still run it through the process, but so small that nobody notices. You know, if you look at your sewer bill and it goes up 50 cents, you're probably 75 cents. You're not going to notice that. That would be the goal. Not that we still have the process to public hearings, but we don't want to shock anybody. And that's why when we were going through this process, I chose and I went to the council, the GM, and said, I think we do this town hall. We do it before the meeting, get the information out there, and go from there. So, but again, I appreciate your time. If you have questions, if you want a card for the office, we're happy to give those to you. I would love to give you she's got one over there. Great. But thank you for your time, and we'll get ready. Hopefully we'll see who comes next. I know, but again, thank you. I don't know why this shut off.